Welcome back. I'm here with Deloitte's Jonathan Schuldenfrei. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, Jonathan, tell our audience about what you do at Deloitte.
Yeah, sure. So I am part of the leadership team for sustainability, climate, and equity. More specifically, I advise clients on their path to net zero strategies and help them operate in a low carbon economy.
And I'm sure some of that has to do with decarbonization. So,
Absolutely.
what are you doing with clients around decarbonization?
Sure. For FSI clients specifically, I'm working with a few. One is really looking to reduce their carbon footprint, and they're looking to Deloitte to help them devise a strategy to reduce their carbon emissions overall from scopes 1, 2, and 3, including financed emissions. Another client is looking for reporting leading practices and ultimately looking for Deloitte to help implement controls for their ESG report. And then the last client that I'm working with is looking to help their own portfolio companies with interventions, and they look to Deloitte to help them develop a playbook for those companies to figure out ways to decarbonize their own businesses, and in turn that would positively impact or negatively reduce the carbon emissions for financed emissions for that financial services company.
So, you've sort of mentioned three big areas
Yeah.
there. So, in that first area, what are the types of things you're looking at for companies that are looking at reducing across scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions? What are the things that stand out that you look at for a company like that?
Yeah, great question. For the financial services company, predominantly they have a large real estate portfolio, not only from an investment perspective, but their direct emissions from a scope 1 perspective. So identifying opportunities for energy management, energy procurement, building operation optimization and reduction are big levers. Depending on whether they have fleet or not, that could also be a lever. So that's predominantly scope 1, and then scope 2 is their energy management, again, in terms of what could they potentially procure a renewable energy portfolio? Could they do on site? Could they install solar? Could they identify off VPPA contracts, virtual purchase power agreements, where they could potentially offload their brown electrons to green electrons, whether through that off-site work or through virtual work. And then for scope 3, it depends on where the relevancy is in terms of the categories. But I would say that financed emissions is the lion's share of that. And I believe that a lot of these financial services companies are starting to integrate some of their risk management strategies with their decarbonization strategies, so they can start having a conversation with some of their counterparts in lines of businesses in ways that they would understand. So, for example, they could talk about the trade-off of net interest margin and the decarbonization. What is the risk of that particular portfolio or that asset class based on the exposure to carbon? And they can start treating it like a duration risk rather than just a conversation.
It's interesting. You talk about risk, but I'm sure that a lot of your work is also about the opportunity that comes out of this. So, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I have a client that was working on how they could potentially discuss the fact that they do not require cold chain, and that their carbon emission footprint is greatly reduced as a result of that, and all of their competitors do require cold chain. So the absence of that carbon emissions allowed them to have a positive impact in terms of their product. And then obviously there's LCAs that I perform for other clients, where they're looking to identify the material extraction, the assembly production, the logistics, and then the end of life. So when we work with our clients through the LCA process, that's also an area that we're making positive impacts, so that they can find opportunities to enhance their products or decarbonize their products in their value chains.
That is tremendous. So I've been talking with Jonathan Schuldenfrei from Deloitte. Thanks a lot, Jonathan.